Well, hello, traders and investors. I'm LA Little, and this is your daily NeoTA wrap, where we take a look at these markets, and we're doing it from a neoclassical perspective. That means each night we ask ourselves what happened today, and does it tell us anything about the coming days? I do the show 4 times a week, every Monday through Thursday. It's broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time. It's archived on YouTube, and it's under the channel LA Little. If you want to subscribe, just reach out up on the right-hand side. Hit that subscribe button anytime content's pushed. If it's not private, that is, if it's for members only, outside of that, you'll get a notification that there's new content. As far as what happens today, let's take a look here and see what we got. If we look at the ending numbers, looks like what do we got here? Only TLT was up. Pretty much everything else down, just slightly. So a slightly red day today. That's going to actually factor in not well, and we'll look at that here in a second. But slight pullback across the indexes domestically. You're getting a little bit of a pullback in Asia, also in Europe. Let's look at the S&P 500, see what it tells us. And I'm kind of behind here today. Sorry that I'm late. Got stuck in a bunch of traffic here as I'm coming out of San Diego tonight. So the S&P 500. Okay, S&P 500 is an inside day, no volume. Doesn't tell us anything. So you can push up, you can push down. Doesn't really tell you much. And it's not a doji. It's not any kind of special candle. If we look at the NASDAQ. Okay, the NASDAQ goes over, back under, right? So yesterday's high is 47.81. You get to 92. You close at 65. That's an over-under. It's not an extended move, anything like that. That says that, yeah, you got a little tail on the top, and then you can get a little pullback tomorrow. NDX, let's see how it looks. NDX, same story. Over, back under, kind of a hanging man, a little bit less volume. So that's a failure too, compared to yesterday. And they were going into some, actually, let me go back to that. NDX was actually going into some bigger bars over here. So, if we look at this, as we come up, well, actually, I pulled the NASDAQ back up here. But as we come back up, we're trying to get back over that big bar. Right, we're coming into that area having problems. And on the NDX, it actually did come into that area. Let's see it here. It's a little slightly different setup. But on the NDX, you actually had it come back into these highs, right? In particular, this wide price spread, high volume kind of push comes into it, can't get over it. Volume's okay, nothing special, but again, lower volume as you come back up. Going back to the Russell right quick, Russell, now that's a complete failure. Russell over, under, was way over, under, fails. Got back into these two bars and just fails. So, again, I don't see buyers chomping at the bit here to get back in. So, I don't see anything on these indexes want to make us want to run and jump in on the long side. I want to take a quick look at some things I haven't looked at. So let's quickly scan the board here. Grains, looks like the grains come in a little bit still. They had made a push and then fell. Over and over again, you're seeing failures on breakouts, upside or downside. Doesn't matter. They just get reeled back in. Here's the emerging market. That's also a failure over under. Let's look at the currencies on the euro. So on the euro, that's an inside bar, no volume. So that doesn't really tell me anything. On the Japanese yen, we get push up back into this kind of resistance zone. I don't know if that tells me much either. So I don't really see much happening there. So the dollar, with these pushing up, the dollar must have been a little bit weaker today, and it was. But look at the dollar. The dollar actually held pretty well today. Did push down with a little bit more volume. But as it got into the low here, 24.64, got to 63, reversed. This dollar is going to try to go higher again tomorrow. That's probably going to put pressure on your metals again. The metals actually were surprising today. They opened down, flipped around, and headed back up. They don't want to give it up yet. And let's see what the silver one looks like. Both of these tested lower, weren't able to push lower and closed higher. And they both had decent tests. These look like they're going to try to hold despite the actual currency looking like it's going to try and push higher tomorrow. Let's see what the overseas markets look like. Let's see if there's any tells in those markets. If we look at, let's look at Europe first. I'll just start here alphabetically. I've got France up first. Nothing there. Let's see what the DAX did. Yeah, nothing here on the DAX either. How about the Swiss market? Yeah, the Swiss market got a little push. So we got a decent push in Switzerland, but not elsewhere. Coming up the Draghi bar, top there was 80.95. We get to 80, let's see here, 80.74. So that looks like that can push a little bit more. Had less volume, but it's going to break a swing point high. So not a bad move in Switzerland, which makes me curious. Well, maybe I'll get a chance and I'll go back and look to see what that actual currency did. Moving over, let's look at Shanghai. Shanghai gets a little push up. We saw the Nikkei look like it was a little weaker. Yeah, that one actually looks like it can try and flip around. And yeah, so nothing special, nothing special anywhere. So all you have at this point is you got a couple, over unders. They're not big tails. They don't have a high probability of giving you a tail for the next day. But if I had to have a small bias coming in tomorrow, I think we'd get some sort of a pullback. Now, what I wanted to look at, one other thing was the chip stocks, because the chip stocks had a pretty good run already, and in fact they got a good one again today. Volume disappears though, and we end up with a doji. So I don't think that's going to give us much more of a push. That would help the NDX if it did. And IBB gets over a swing point high, but it's coming into a big bar here. That one could go a little bit farther too, just like the SOX. And finally, let me just look at technology itself. And that's a little failure at the swing point high, but it has some volume. So it looks to me like the NDX is going to try and push higher again tomorrow morning, but I wouldn't be surprised if they reel them right back in. That's it for tonight. I'll get back with you tomorrow. See you then. Have a great one. Good night.